such is fabrications, such is its appearing, such is its disappearance. All right. So after practicing mindfulness for 45 minutes walking and 45 minutes sitting, now we are trying to support what we do. In other words, walking on the Buddha's path. Buddha's path means practicing mindfulness, keeping mindfulness to the fore. So when you keep the mindfulness to the fore, Blessed One has said, that is your adventure in seeking the right way. If you look for the right view, then what you will have to do is you will have to support that. I think I was disconnected for a few minutes. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, all right, okay. So I'll start again. So to support what we are doing, walking on the Buddha's path, we will have to, Buddha has given 5 ways to support. The 5 ways to support is the listening supportive factor, discussion supportive factor, and the first one is the moral supportive factor, and then the concentration and insight supportive factor. So of these supportive factors, we are going to now adhere to the second and the third, which is listening and discussion supportive factor. For the listening supportive factor, we have taken the Bible of Mindfulness, which is 4 foundations of mindfulness. In 4 foundations, it's a lengthy discourse, and in that discourse, we have covered quite a bit. And what mindfulness, 4 foundations of mindfulness basically illustrates is how best you can study yourself, right? So it is dividing the discourses into 4 sections: how you become mindful of your body, how you become mindful of your feelings, how you become mindful of your mind. Those are the 3 things the mainly I want to mention now. When you do this mindfulness, in other words, when you practice your walking and sitting, what we are trying to be mindful is basically our body. But you can't just separate your body from the other things that are appearing, feelings, and the mental process. So therefore, you get an opportunity to be mindful of all these 3 layers. So when you become mindful of these 3 layers, there are various facets that come up, which we have discussed in detail in the previous sessions. So once you become mindful to a certain extent on these 3 basic layers of yourself, then there is another subtle layer of yourself, which he is discussing in the 4th foundations of mindfulness, which we call nature or phenomena. And in Pali, we call it Dhamma. And in that, the 2nd chapter is about, he's talking about clinging aggregates. Even in clinging aggregates, there are 5 clinging aggregates, which we have already signposted at the beginning of I think previous or the session before that. The 5 clinging aggregates are Rupa, which we call the form, Vedana, which we call feelings, and Sanya, which we call perceptions, and Sankhara, which we call mental volitions or fabrications, and consciousness, or in Pali we call it Vijnana. So these 5 aggregates, we have discussed the first 3, form, feelings, and the perceptions. We have started on Sankhara in the last session. So from there on, we will see what else we have got to, or we can add to our knowledge of Sankhara. So if I give you a brief summary of what we discussed in the last meeting, was we found three subtle definitions or three subtle stages of Sankhara. According to the Pali dictionary, there are four definitions. One is it says the functional energy is called Sankhara, and the other is essential conditions for existence is called Sankhara, and the next one is fabrication, and the other is conditioned thing, right? Of these four definitions, the last two are fairly simple, which we can see, which we can understand. Fabrication means we keep manufacturing, we keep producing things mentally, right? That is fabrication, and I'll go into a bit more detail about it later. And conditioned thing means everything that we see around, and including yourself, is a conditioned thing, which has been produced by Sankhara or the mental volition. And the first two are not very clear, and they are really, really subtle because of its sheer speed, right? When you say functional energy, when you can't see the functional energy of a driving car, the car is going at 120 on freeway, you can't see the functional energy, it is moving, right? Similarly, in our case, we have some functional energy, which we can't see because we never slow down, right? So if we want to see the functional energy, we will have to stop the car, or rather take it to a lower lane, and then take the exit, and then put into a lower gear, slow speed, and then stop and see. Then you will see, okay, there is a mechanical section, mechanical system, there is a technology system, there is electrical system, and Chatu knows much more than I know. So when all these systems work together, then it's a vehicle, right? And that functional energy is there. Vehicle is not moving. So similarly, in our case, there are certain such functions, such systems which are working, which we don't know, which we can't see because it is so subtle and it is happening all the time. And Buddha says, ignorance is leading to sankhara. In other words, we call it in Pali, avidya pacha sankhara. Avidya pacha sankhara means as a precondition, the ignorance as a precondition is leading to this functional energy, right? And essential condition for existence is having this functional energy doesn't do anything. You will have to start the car. You will have to put the key in and then start it. Then it starts working. And just starting won't do. You have to put it in the first gear, third gear, fourth gear, top gear, and then go at the full speed. So that gearing is happening in the fabrication stage. And once it is keep moving, and it's a conditioned thing. So what we see here is mainly, not only just here, in most of the time in the world, we see therefore the fabrications that are happening around us, and conditioned things we always can see. The other two layers, they happen all the time, but we can't see because they are so subtle. So therefore, I have in this, that is what we have discussed in the last session. Now, if you go a bit further, most of the teachers and scholars say the fundamental characteristic in sankhara, in all these four definitions, is the intentional choosing, intentional selection. Because of that intentional selection, which we don't see, which we don't observe, this sankhara keeps happening, right? Let me give you a very simple example, and then a bit of a complicated and abnormal example for us to understand this process. The simple example is, say, for example, you are going for a party, evening tea party. In the evening party, a few of you are going, say 4 or 5 are going. And then there is a chocolate tray. And all 4 of you or 5 of you pick the same chocolate type, right? So naturally, people will think all 4 or 5 of them came together and they have the same taste, same choice, and they have picked up the same thing. And that's how an outsider would see it. But if you talk individually to these people, they may have different versions of why they have selected the same, that particular chocolate, right? One might say, you know, it's wrapped so nicely, and therefore I like it. So because it is pleasing to the eye, he or she is taking that. And another one might say, it smells so beautiful when you open it, and that is why I picked it. So another person's choice has been determined by the nose, not by the eye, right? So that is the selection, I would say, the basis of the selection. And then another person might say, no, it tastes so good, that is why I selected. So that person, although he has selected the same thing, he has been influenced by a different faculty of us, right? So like that, if you take something outward, we will think that it is because of the taste, because after all, it's food. And for food, it may be driven by either the taste or its nutritional content. So, but not necessary. And even if someone is not talking to them, they themselves may not know why they have selected. So therefore, that's a functional energy. Why you choose something, which faculty of us, whether it's the eye, whether it's the nose, whether it's the tongue, whether it's the ear, whether it's the tactile sensation, or whether it's the mental attachment to it, we don't know, right? So therefore, when we have something, if we select a particular thing, there is only one faculty that determines it, and that is a choice. That is the functional energy. So if I take my other example, which is a bit unusual and abnormal, I'm taking that so that I will be able to explain the whole process. Say, for example, once again in a party, it has alcohol drinks, and someone in the party is not drinking. So there is another mischievous fellow. What he does is he take some whiskey in a glass and go and throw it to the face of the person who is not drinking, right? Then what the victim does is, victim will chase this person and throw a punch, right? And we will stop there without going any further. So why this happened, how this happened, nobody knows. And he will say he threw something and then I just could not bear it, and therefore I had to chase him and catch him and punch him. But if you talk to him carefully, then he might come out with the reason why he started the chase, why he wanted to chase, right? He may say any faculty may have attributed to the incident, right? So for example, he may say, I saw some liquid is coming and they are coming towards me, so therefore I reacted to it. So the eye faculty has guided, has led the action. That's the functional energy. Or he may say, no, it is on my shirt, it is on my body, and I'm smelling, and I can't bear this smell. So therefore, his action may have been decided by the nose. Or he may say, it went into my eye and I started burning. So which means tactile sensation, bodily sensation, and that is why I chased him. Or he might say, I knew something hit me only because of that sound that it created by hitting my body, and then I chased it. Or he might say, no, it went into my tongue and my tongue was burning, I just could not bear it. That is why I chased. Or he might say, I'm the president of National Non-Alcoholic Association. How dare he does that to me? And that is why I chased. So it's a mental thing. So therefore, although you see that this incident happened and he was chased and caught and punched him, we don't know what faculty that led him. And if it happened to many different people, they may have different versions. So that's the functional energy. So once this functional energy happens, say for example, it was affected by the smell, for example. So if it is affected by the smell, once he had that smell, then he immediately realizes that he doesn't like it. What happens is when it hits the body, when the smell comes, right, he identifies the smell. So then he has the contact with the nose. So when he has contact with the nose, then he will have to either like it or dislike it. It will be pleasing, it will be pleasing to him or not, right? So it was not pleasing in this case. So therefore, when he perceives that, then he thinks over it. What do I do? I should teach this guy a lesson. So then what happens is, what he contacted or he realized or he had the initial energy coming from the nose. Now it is going into another process. That process is now he's thinking. Now that has been taken by the mind, and the mind is processing it now. So that incident has led to another selection of our faculties, which is the mind. So the mind is saying it is not good. Mind is saying you should teach this guy a lesson. And then once you decide that, that action will be taken again by another faculty. So another sankhara is happening, and this is how the fabrication is happening. I should chase this person. So the body is taking body is actioning now. So it's not the nose now, it's not the mind now. Now it's the body, and you are chasing. And once you chase, again you catch him. Once you catch him again, there will have verbal arguments, and then once again body will action, right? So like that, it's a continuous process. So that continuous process, when it is continuing in that manner, it becomes a fabrication. And then once you punch, and when you finally police and catch you and go into the jail, that is how you become an inmate. That's a conditioned thing. So I have taken this exceptional example for just to explain this process. So although I had taken that example, this is exactly what is happening every time within us. We don't know. So therefore, this central selection process in sankhara, we can't see unless we really slow down, right? So before, now one might feel, okay, if it is functional energy, if it is essential condition for living, and without doing I have taken bad examples to show the negative side of it. No, there is positive side as well. We should have fabrication. We should have conditional thing. And therefore, there is nothing wrong in it. That's perfectly right. But what the issue now we have is not with Sankara, not having selection, not that we should avoid intentional selection or intentional choosing. What we will have to avoid is clinging on to it. So we are talking about clinging aggregates. So when we talk about clinging aggregates, and if you take for our existence, we can't live with Sankara, we can't live with fabrications and mental volition. There are, for any human being, there are 4 basic requirements: food, shelter, clothing, and medication. Without these 4 basic requirements, it's hard for anybody to live. So if I go a bit further, and if we talk about layperson, we can also include, say, for example, education and livelihood as well, because nobody is coming and feeding you like a mom. You will have to earn your living. So therefore, we may consider that as also an essential requirement or basic need, right? Although these are our basic needs are used. Say, for example, we will have to have food to have the physical energy, to alleviate the discomfort we may have, or to have a pleasant day. That is why we need food. But if you really take food, is that the only reason why we take food? Right? We have, when you go outside, or basically when we take food, the first thing we will decide is whether it's homemade or whether you will go out. If you go out, which restaurant, whether it's Italian, whether it's Indian, whether it's Mexican, whether it's Thai, whether it's Sri Lankan, so many varieties. And when you go to the restaurant for the same type, so many varieties. So our sankara, or our selection, or internal intentional selection, is used by the world to put us in a huge range of selections. So when you have huge range of selections, you will have to crack your head. When they come and give you the menu card, 5 minutes is not enough to select. 10 minutes is not sometimes enough to select. Sometimes people take more than half an hour to sleep. Right? It is how this sankara has been misused by the world, and we don't know we are trapped in it. Right? And this is just one example. And therefore, our selection will be affected by commercialization, will be affected by peers, will be affected by neighbors, will be affected by our rivals, will be affected by fear. It is just for food I'm talking. And say, for example, the next one is residence. When you build our house will not be decided by us. Our house may be decided by the house that my brother has built, the house my friend has built, house my neighbor has built. So I want to have something different to that, or something superior to that. So it's not the basic need that guides us. So all this happens because of this clinging to sankara. Having a house is fine to have the basic need, right? By having a house, what we do is we try to protect ourselves from bad weather, bad climate, or crawling insects and flying insects, or crawling animals and flying insects, and things like that, basic protection. But we go much more beyond, beyond that, right? And there was a snake a couple of days ago in the canteen, and everyone is running around to cover the gaps. Small snake in the canteen, and we are so some are so shocked that I mean, it's understandable because kids are coming and place should be protected. So like that, it is driven by sometimes our fear, and that is why we have security system, alarm system, and what's the latest, videos protection system. It's our selections are affected by fear. And similarly, clothing. Why we should have clothing is to protect ourselves, what I said, from the bad weather, from the bad climatic conditions, and cover ourselves or wrap ourselves to be protected by cold and heat, and sometimes those animals that may harm us, and also to cover our private parts that may challenge some others' feelings. But today, if you take clothing, it's completely the opposite. In winter, people keep their 50% of the body open. And in summer, they wrap from head to toe. And sometimes when we see some clothing, we feel that the basic need is not at all addressed. When my teacher, Bhante Dhammajiva, was here, and we went to Glasshouse Mountain. And in Glasshouse Mountain, there was a girl who was not dressed properly. And he asked me, why can't we tell these people that this is not suitable when you come out? I told him, mind your own business. And if you try to teach them morality, they will understand that as a fault of ours. So therefore, let them do whatever they want to do. We should not comment about it, right? So therefore, if someone who is used to seeing the basic need of something, see the excess. See that the basic is not addressed. That see that we are going beyond the basic. And that is when the clinging happens. When the clinging happens, we don't know what we do. And it is decided by someone else. Our selection is influenced or ordered by someone else, right? So this is going to such an extent that we today, we don't treat animals as living. We farm animals like potato, like carrot, like any other crop. We farm animals, and it has gone to our systems, our mental systems, so much that it is farming. It has come for a long time. Therefore, some chicken are in the deep freezers more than really they have lived a life. They would be grown for 2-3 months and then store for longer than 2-3 months. They may be in deep freezer in the manufacturer's place, and they will be in the deep freezer in the distributor's place, and in the supermarket, and then our deep freezer as well. It's a long time sometimes, right? So we don't hesitate to kill an animal when we go beyond our basic needs, when we cling on to our basic needs, and we try to keep storing as much as possible things for ourselves, things for me, things for my family, things for my village, things for my country. So therefore, everything else around us is for us. That is how we are selected. And it is going not only to animal. Sometimes we don't consider the life of a human being as well, if it is for our advantage. If you want to take resource from some other person, you want to rob something, you may, some people may harm another person, and then take the resources. And it has gone in much larger scale when you drop bombs to other countries to take their resources. And the system is developed to such an extent. There are justifications for this by organizations like NATO, like World Bank, like IMF, like UN. They justify that, and they think they have the right to police the world, that it is their duty. And such, that is how excessive selection of clinging, excessive selection of our basic needs is leading to clinging. And once that happens, we don't know where we have started, we don't know where we are at. And that is happening to the world now. So when this happens, what we will have to do is, by the practitioners, we will have to just ensure that we are meeting the utility value. We don't just take things in excess. We will have to have the utility value, because we can't live without sankhara. We can't live without selection. So if we leave the excess out, if we take only the utility value of things, then sankhara is a good thing. Today, I have given basic needs, and there are much more basic needs than we had a few years ago when we were growing up. When we were growing up, internet was not a basic need. Wi-Fi was not a basic need. Vehicle was not a basic need. Mobile phone was not a basic need. Now all these are basic needs. Sometimes even electricity was not a basic need those days when you were growing up. Anyway, when I have mentioned that this selection process is going out of control, and it is going to the extent that we harm ourselves because of this entanglement. How it happens is, this selection initially starts in the mind, and then it gets converted into words, and then it gets converted into physical actions. So there are 3 stages, 3 layers, or 3 types of sankhara, or mental volitions, right? The 3 are mental, verbal, and physical, right? So therefore, families are made first in the mind, and houses are built first in the mind. Cars are built first in the mind. Roads, bridges, all are built first in the mind. Even wars are first fought in the mind. And after that only, once it is really done in the head, then you talk to people, then you have meetings, then you have conferences, and then only the action takes place. So everything first starts in the mind, and then the verbal process, and then the physical process takes place. So it is having 3 evolving stages, and this is happening. This is not now, although I said it is happening mentally, verbally, and physically. You don't know what is happening. It is happening so fast. and it is happening in each and every, and more activities you are involved in, your physical, mental, verbal process is happening so fast. So ultimately, when you cling on to these things, what happens is it creates continuous excessive mental and verbal and physical volition, creates stress mentally and physically. And end of the day, you feel so tired in the mind and even in the body. That is why some people, when they come from the office, I have a headache and I am not fit today. And all these are coming because this mental, verbal, physical processes are happening at such a rapid speed in so many activities involved. You don't have time to rest, and it's a high autobahn, no speed. And physical and mental ailments, therefore, an inevitable thing. So therefore, we need to have a solution for it, and that is the solution that the Blessed One is giving. And every other solution that the other people are giving is putting more and more trouble into the equation and not solution. And one thing what I would say is, since this is happening, since you really feel tired after working for so many months, and employers are giving holiday, leave, what do? Say you take a break and go on leave to avoid all this sankara. And when you go on holiday, you do more intentional things than otherwise. Different intentional things. You wake up early and sleep late. And then you have to come back home, go back to office to rest. When I was working in the Middle East in Bahrain, there was a guy who was having a huge annual leave balance. And we were asking him, why don't you go on leave? He says, no, I don't want to go on leave. In the office, I am on leave. If I go home, my wife is giving me so much work. So he never goes on leave. He was so old. He had such a huge balance. And there was no rule as such in that company that you must take. We expatriate every year. We take leave and we go on holiday. But the locals, Bahrainis, they don't go, and some of them, of course, stay. This guy is accumulating. He says more work at home, and it is true. In the office, he was not doing anything. He was actually on holiday in the office. Anyway, coming back to our point, to have a solution, and the solution that we have is it's creating more and more sankara, creating more and more intentional activities. But the Blessed Ones, sometimes even for a rest, for peace of mind, we go to temple. And even in the temple, when you go there, we have intentional activities, quite a bit of intentional activities, giving food, offering food, and offering flowers, and watering the Bodhi tree, and all these things are chanting, and all these things are intentional activities, right? Although different, although giving bit of different attribute to the normal way of living, we don't come out of the intentional activities. Whereas Blessed One has preached, Blessed One has advised that you will have to minimize intentional activities and get rid of the excessive intentional activities. So even in temple, we have quite a bit of intentional activities. They don't take us away from sankara. They don't take us away from sankara. And they also do some sankara, which does not address the real issue of suffering, but postponing suffering. Right? So therefore, the Blessed One says, my solution is different. His solution is you tackle your volition at the mental level. That was his advice. So to tackle at the mental level, what he says is, in 4 Foundations of Mindfulness discourse, he says, go to the woods or the forest or foot of a tree or to an empty hut. So when you go to the forest, there are no beautiful things to see. There are no all those musics around, and no TVs, and no tasty food, right? A lot of intentional activities are fun. And we don't these nowadays go to forest. We can't go to foot of a tree and raining all the time. And therefore we go to empty hut. That is why you come to the temple. And when we come to the temple, if 20 people come to the Bodhi tree, 1 person will come into the Dhamma hall to meditate. And that is the ratio we have. People want volitional activities. No one wants to practice. No one wants to stop volitional activities. The Blessed One says, go to the empty hut. So we have built an empty hut, spending so much of hundreds of thousands of dollars. But no, they don't want that. Although it is peaceful, I mean, there is no point telling this crowd. This crowd is making use of that place. But a lot of other people, they don't use that place. So Blessed One says, go to the empty hut. And then he says, sit in the lotus posture if possible. So, and close eyes, you sit in the lotus posture, you cut down all the connections with the rest of the world. You are with yourself. So that is how the volition, mental volition is handled. So, and then he says, keep your awareness to the fore, taking your body as the focal point. Right? So you don't do any other mental activity. You try to bring your mind to your body. When you try to bring your mind to the body, mental activities are hugely challenged. When it is hugely challenged in that manner, one of the 2 things will happen. One is it will be successful, the other, it will be unsuccessful. Most of the time for newcomers, it is the latter. It won't be successful. Most of the newcomers, what they say is, no, I can't bring my attention to the body. I can't bring my attention to the breath. I can't bring my attention to the walking. If you are walking, although I have given only the sitting information here. Even walking is a challenge to the mental volition. So now you start seeing how the mind works. Mind never stops, right? So then the Blessed One says, if you can't bring your attention to the body, if you can't really slow it down and then and you try to be at peace with you, then you can't go the journey. So if you keep being disturbed, if you are being disturbed by thoughts, then you should have a solution for that when it is unsuccessful. If it is successful, no problem, you keep observing your body. If it is unsuccessful, and which is the case most of the time, then Blessed One has introduced another technique. That technique is also using sankhara. That technique is also using mental volition. The mental volition in this case is, even in the previous one, selecting to bring your mind to the body is also a mental activity. But it is by doing that mental activity, by doing that mental selection, you are getting rid of a lot of other mental selections that you have been doing otherwise. Right? Now, it has not been successful. You keep complaining that you get a lot of thoughts. Then what the Blessed One says is, okay, if you can't do that, then do this. Now he's taking the next layer of the volition, not the mental. The next layer is the verbal. He says, if you can't straight away bring your attention, bring your awareness to the walking foot or the body or to the breath, upper body or to the lower body, then you start labeling. While walking, you label walking, 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 walking. When you label walking while walking, walking, your mind does not have an opportunity for anything else to come. Because mind is directed to label what you are doing. Then the appearance or occurrence of thoughts will be minimized. And once you are with walking, once you feel that you are with walking, then once again thoughts will come. Then this labeling can be broadened. How you broaden the labeling is, instead of saying walking, walking, you slice it. You slice the walking into two. You label, when the right foot goes, you label right, 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 right. When the left goes, you label left, 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 left. Then it's the same walking process, but you see more details than previously. And then you may understand that your mind is coming more closer to what you are doing. So even that after some time, when the mind is with the right foot and the left foot, and you see right foot well, you see the left foot well, then after some time, or after a few days, or after a few months, once again you understand thoughts never stop, thoughts coming. Then the teachers say, slice that again, subdivide that again. So this walking process, now instead of saying right and left, you can go to the process of walking. You can label it as lifting, placing, because to walk, you will have to lift and place. So then you label, while lifting, you label lifting, 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 placing, you label placing, 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 placing. So then you are more involved with the activity than walking, than left, right and left. Now you are really into the process, right? You keep on doing that for some time, and this is a bit subtle, and your mind is more engaged with the activity. You see more things of the lower part of the body. And if you get thoughts, even after that, some teachers say, add one more layer to it, not just lifting. When you lift, you say lifting, lifting, lifting. When you move, before placing it, when you move, you label moving, moving, moving. And when you place, you say placing, 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 placing. So you subdivide it into three. The process is subdivided into three. No need to say right lifting, right moving, right placing. Just say lifting, moving, placing. Right? And then mind is more involved with the process. And it is not easy for the mind to wander now. So when this happens, even if the mind wanders after some time, you have gone into the process and you see more details of the walking process. So I have just taken walking as the example. The same thing can be done even with sitting as well. When you're breathing, you can label it as in, out, 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 in, out, out, out. And if it is changing, you can accordingly change. If it is shallow breath, you say shallow in, shallow in, shallow in, shallow out, shallow out, shallow out. Right? So like that, you get involved in the process that manner. So when that happens, you are, by using the mental, by using the verbal sankhara or verbal fabrications or verbal mental volition, you handle both mental side as well as physical side. Right? So, and by doing that, you have mental volitions, you have verbal volitions, you have physical volitions on your lower part of the body, on the upper part of the body. So your mental volitions are directed to yourself and all other mental volitions around. Happening because of the eye, happening because of the nose, happening because of the tongue, happening because of the ears, happening because of the body, happening because of the mind, are completely shut. You are with yourself. When you are with yourself, of course, you are labeling, you are doing some sankhara. And with that labeling, what the teacher says, what the Buddha says is, you have completely come out of the sensual world because you are with your walking or you are with your breath. You don't entertain any of your faculties. You are out of the sensual world. And not only you are out of the sensual world, you don't even have thoughts of the sensual world. You don't get any thoughts about what you ate, what you saw, what you heard. The music and movies will not come into your mind when you are actually with your breath, when you are actually with the walking, moving foot. I'm not saying the whole 1 hour or whole 45 minutes. When you are with that just one breath, when you are with that just one walking step, that just one, you're completely out of the sensual world, you're completely out of the sensual images as well. Thoughts means images, sensual images. And that gives you a pleasure. That gives you a happiness. And that happiness is coming because you are with yourself, which you have not enjoyed in the past. So you call it rapture and happiness. Rapture rising in your body because your mind is with the body. And that rapture in the body has been led by the settling mind, has been led by the mind that really is resting now. Right? So when that happens, because of your labeling, this peaceful, serene, calm situation has arisen. Because of that reason, your mind will identify another volitional activity that can be dropped. Now you have seen being with yourself is creating such a rapture and such a serenity. So therefore, it would be better if I stop labeling. If I just observe without labeling, I will be at much more peaceful, at much more peace. I will be much happier. Then what you will gradually do is, since you are with your body, there is no need to label now. You have the skill to maintain your attention to your body. Then without labeling, you just observe. So in that manner, the Blessed One is using verbal volition to link the body and the mind. Once it is linked, when they are in love with each other, the verbal volition slowly drops, or you can drop it out. So one volitional stage has completely taken away from the equation. Now you have only the physical and the mental working together. When the physical and mental working together, you are simply observing your breath. And you start seeing your breath is shallowing, and it's gradually disappearing, and you keep observing, disappearing, keep observing, and it comes to a stage where you see only the breath particles, air particles, just bubbling up in the nose, at the entrance of the nose. So it is no breath now as such, just air particles that you observe. Right? So which means your mind has been sharpened to an extent to see the inner layers of the breath, to break the breath into pieces, to thin slice the breath. So in other words, you see it is not just one solid breath is coming in. You see particles are coming. You can see particles because they are not together. They are separated. So in other words, what it means is you see the particles because you can see the gaps in between. So mind is so sharp to see that. So such a mind that sees such gaps, may start observing the breath that is going into your body. And then as a result, your mind will go into the body and you may feel the whole body as well. So when you feel the whole body, if you just keep observing that, after some time, you may be completely absorbed into the body, and you may feel you are at so much ease. And as a result, it may come to a stage that you will not feel the body after some time. So if you come to a stage where you don't feel the body, that is the cessation of your physical activities. That is the cessation of your physical volition. So you have handled 3 or 2 layers of the volition. First verbal, we first handle the verbal, and then continuous observation of the body. We were able to thin slice first the air, and through the air we take our mind into the body and keep observing. When you keep observing, you go into finer layers of the body, and as a result, your mind will see that mentality is much larger than the physical process that we are observing, and that mind aspect will open up. And opening up of mind aspect means you don't feel the body. It becomes so light, and what the Blessed One says is, Passambayan Kaya Sankara. Kaya Sankara means physical, mental volition, settling down. Passambayan Kaya Sankara. So once that settles down, you have only the mental side to that. So this is the solution that the Blessed One is giving us to handle Sankara. So if you go even further, I'm not taking that at this stage, we come to a stage even in the mentality, we stop selection. We just keep observing. We can do this. We come to this stage of dropping verbal and physical volitions because we just observe things. There is no reaction. We just keep the no reaction means that is the nature of the mindfulness. That is how we started. That is how the Blessed One wanted us to start. How? He said, keep the mindfulness to the fore, having the body as your focal point. He says, Ujum kayang panidaya parimukang sati, which means you keep the body as the focal point, have the mindfulness in the driving seat. Then you have the non-reactional nature will start developing. So as a result, you can gradually leave these mental volitions away and drop the mental volitions out. And it happens because of the accepting nature of the mindfulness. And it happens because you become happier with what is happening. When the breath is becoming subtler, if you don't become happier, if you don't become calm, if you become agitated, then we will have to struggle a bit. Not that it is impossible. Some people may get agitated because all this time you have been breathing well. Now the breath is going shallow. Am I going to die? Some people may feel, and they may start shivering. They may start sweating, and they may start everything they may experience. Right. So that's natural as well. Right. But there are some other people when it's becoming, because we discuss now, because we listen to a talk now, you know, these are possibilities. So you become used to it and you let it happen. When you let it happen, you become happy with what is happening, and that's the nature of the mindfulness. This happens because you keep the mindfulness to the fore, and you don't choose now, because you simply observe. Let whatever happens happen, right? So then volitions will have to drop, whether mind likes it or not. They will have to change their habit. They will have to change their obsession. The mind will have to change their habit and obsession. So this way you will change your mind, making the brain to change its habit. So that's how you, Blessed One, teaches us to live a happy life. So may you all have a lovely, happy life. Teruvan Saranai, and the blessings of the Noble Triple Chant. With that, I'll shut up. So we can take a few minutes. Yeah, about 20 minutes. If anyone is having any questions or points to discuss. And I would like to have a report, but I don't know who is joining here. So therefore, yes. Does anyone want to talk? Sanjay is there. Okay, good. Yes, any questions? Any comments? Any complaints?
Hi, Uncle. I have a question.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Sadhu. So when I was meditating for a longer time, I noticed that my feelings of like nausea, which I have as a general problem, were arising more. And so I wasn't sure whether to concentrate on that and wait for it to pass, as it felt like it was getting worse.
Right. So when you say you generally have it, so when you are not practicing also, do you have it? Can't hear you.
Sorry.
You said you generally have it. So does that mean when you don't practice also you have it?
Yep. So just normally it's there.
Yeah. So if it's a medical condition, are you taking any medication for it?
Not at the moment, no.
Right. So I advise that, because it is generally there, and if it is not a serious thing, nothing to worry as well. I remember when we were kids, we can't go in a bus. 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the bus, we start vomiting. Right. So we have never taken any medication, but in your case, it cannot be something like that. It would be better to check. Number one. Number two, so far as mindfulness is concerned, the only medication is observe. Get as close as possible to it. Just you challenge in the sense, not that you fight with nausea, but you get as close as possible and observe how you feel it. How you feel it physically, what sensations arises. And if you keep on observing that for some time, I'm sure you may be able to tackle it. So it's no need to stop your practice. If it increases while practicing, it is that itself is an observation, that itself is a mindfulness. For some people, when the mindfulness practice is going well, this usually happens because when your breath is becoming subtler, when you don't take perceptions of the outside world, our mind loses its bearing. When it loses its bearing, something like this might happen. Some people start sweating because we are not used to it. So when you feel those things, you should get close to it, because that is something that has arisen because of the practice. And what the practice is keep the mindfulness to the fore and observe whatever happens. So this is what is happening. This is you now. So you keep observing that. But that is not to replace any medication for a medical condition if you have. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Asura. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
That's nice.
I miss coming into the temple though.
Yeah, we all miss that. That's what to do. We'll have to live with it.
Yeah, but we can't be attached to that either. So
Yeah, exactly. and we don't give up whatever happens.
Yeah.
This is why we are meeting virtually.
Yeah. My question is regarding having, I guess, paraphrasing what you're saying, having the bare necessities in our day-to-day life. As lay people, obviously, we are entangled in more than just the bare necessities, especially if you have a house. Let's say you want to put some additional furnishings in, or you want to develop it a bit further. Is it possible to do these things in a moderate level, such that as you're doing the things, you realize that at any day, any week, any month, all of this can come crashing down, and through acceptance of that, still not go overboard, but do some small things in a moderate level, acceptably?
Yeah, no, it is very much possible, because when Buddha was living, he was offered the best that was possible during those days. He never said, "Oh, I don't want any of these things. I'm living with just basic necessities. Nothing should come to my place." He has been offered so many things with made of the fine silk, and then golden temples and things like that, and he accepted everything. But he was not clinging into those things. So what the practice does is, not that we come out of what we have or come out of what we should do. We avoid clinging on to that. So the monks are receiving so much of things. But if they cry when they don't have it, or when they lose it, then there is clinging. We know that these things will not be there forever. And when that happens, if you are not disturbed, then you have not been clinging to it. So there is no need to come out of our normal lay life. So if we come out of our normal lay life, what happens is it's a challenge to the survival of the Dhamma itself. Because people will start saying, because of Dhamma, it happened to so and so. Because of Dhamma, it happened to so and so. No. Because of Dhamma, we should be able to live our lives even better. Even better. So if we take that to live it better, with whatever we have, we should find our happiness more in the practice. And everything else that is around us materially are just to support it. And when the practice is going well, it is a usual thing that you get promotions in the workplace. You get more salary. You get more things, right? That itself is coming to test you, to challenge you, right? So therefore, although we say that there are bare necessities, these are the bare necessities, definitely. But in lay life, there is another boundary. So living a lay life, you should not try to reach the boundary of a monk. Now, of course, when we are preaching, when we are giving talks, we take that boundary and explain, try to show the excess that we have outside, right? But when you are living a lay life, you should live the lay life with the standards of the lay life, not the standard of the monk life. If that happens, we will be mixing up the two and confusing the two. I'm not quite sure I answered your question.
Oh, no, that's perfect. Thank you.
No worries. How is practice going?
Could be better.
Right. No, that's okay. Which means you are doing good.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Anybody else?
I think that your explanations tonight will really help me with my meditations, because I do struggle, particularly with the walking one. But I've taken notes of everything that you said tonight, and I'll put that into practice. And I think that's really going to help me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. My pleasure. Thanks to hear. Nice to hear, Ravi. All right. So if there are no other item to discuss, we can transfer positive energies to the rest of the living beings and conclude the session. For that, we go to page 5. On page 5, we can transfer these positive energies that we have generated practicing mindful walking and mindful sitting and listening to a talk on mindfulness and the aggregates, cleaning aggregates, and the discussion. These positive energies may be shared with all the human beings that can receive them and all other non-humans, devas and nagas as well, and departed relatives as well, chanting our usual stanzas in English.